Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Grad Prep series for the Division of Graduate Education and Postdoctoral Affairs Office of Outreach, Access, Recruitment, and Retention. My name is Edgar Beas. I work here in this office as doing diversity outreach and recruitment. And I have the pleasure today to introduce you the panel for this Tuesday afternoon. And the first panelist is from Bioengineering and is Vanessa Hollingsworth. Vanessa is a graduate affairs coordinator for this department. We also have Tiara Terrell from Computer Science and Engineering. Tiara is a TA and admissions coordinator for this department. We have Ryan Baudet, hopefully I pronounced that right, Ryan, PhD admissions coordinator for the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. And we also have Jackie Tam today, student affairs officer and graduate advisor for the Nano Engineering and Chemical Engineering program. So without further ado, I also want to welcome Betty Ramirez, who is in the room too, and Betty is our STARS director. All right, everyone. Well, welcome. We'll get started with the presentations. We'll have some time for questions as well. Feel free to put the questions in the Q&A as our presenters are giving us all their presentations. But we'll try to answer most of the questions at the end after our last presenter, after Jackie presents. We'll try to answer the questions and spend a lot of time in the Q&A. But in the meantime, as you're listening to the presentations, please make sure to write down their questions or put them in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer them as we go, okay? All right, everyone. So I'd like to give the floor to Vanessa Hollingsworth. Welcome, Vanessa.
Hello, welcome. Edgar, I can't share. It says cannot share while there's okay. Okay, there we go. Hopefully everyone's seeing the presentation, virtual session bioengineering. If I can get, I'm seeing some nods. Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. Hi, my name is Vanessa Hollingsworth. I'm the coordinator of graduate affairs for the Department of Bioengineering here at UC San Diego. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our department, our programs, and then some admissions related to bioengineering. So first, over here. So bioengineering at UC San Diego, we are ranked number 4 in the nation for bioengineering by US News and World Report for the year 2022. We have ranked in the top 4 bioengineering programs in the country by US News and World Report consistently for over the last decade. In terms of research, there's some interesting numbers that I always like to point out. One of them is 27,000, which is the average number of citations of our faculty. $20 million in grant funding is our average amount of funding that we receive over a 12-month period. And then 58.5 is the average H index of our faculty. H index is a metric used to estimate the importance, significance, and broad impact of a scientist's contributions. And an H index of 60 or more characterizes truly unique individuals. Most of our faculty, again, it's an average of 58.5. So a lot of our faculty are doing really outstanding and widely impactful research in our department. I also wanted to give you an idea of kind of the size of our department. So in terms of graduate students, as of this last academic year, we had 382 graduate students. The majority of them are from our doctoral programs, our PhD programs. I'll get to those in a moment. And then we also have a number in our professional master's degrees, as well as our academic master's degrees. For faculty, we have 94 faculty, which includes 41 core faculty and adjuncts, as well as 53 affiliate faculty. Because bioengineering is such a broad field that encompasses a lot of different areas, we have affiliate faculty from other departments who are doing bioengineering related research, who actually have an affiliation with our department through that research work. Some of the other faculty have home departments, including electrical engineering, nano engineering, pharmacology, as well as several departments in the School of Medicine. In terms of our graduate programs, we offer several different kinds of programs. So first, we offer two professional master's degree programs. We have the Masters of Engineering, the MEng program, as well as the Masters of Engineering with specialization in medical device engineering, quite a mouthful. We call that our MEng MDE program. And at the bottom of this slide and the other slides about our graduate programs, you'll find the link to our department website that has much more detailed information as well as program descriptions and the curriculum for each one of the programs. So I definitely recommend checking those out. We also offer academic master's programs. So we offer a Master's of Science in Bioengineering with a specialization in medicine. That is our MS Med program. We also offer a Master's of Science MS Plan 1 thesis program, which is your typical research-based master's. And then we offer a Master's of Science MS Plan 2 comprehensive exam degree, which is your typical course-based master's degree. We also offer PhD programs. So we have our regular PhD program in bioengineering. We also work jointly with the School of Medicine to offer the Medical Scientist Training Program, MSTP, which leads to a combined MD and PhD degree. And then we also, in collaboration with San Diego State University, offer a JDP, which is a joint doctoral program administered by both universities. In terms of admissions, I know this slide is a lot. It's got a lot of information on it, but basically our admissions committee is looking for somebody who has an engineering degree or a strong background in math, physics, as well as some chemistry, biology, and mechanics or engineering coursework. Our admissions committee does look at GPA, and then we also take into account research experience for people who are interested in our MS Plan 1 thesis or our PhD programs, and then people who are interested in our professional master's degrees, so the MEng or MEng MDE, we like to see some industry or professional experience. That being said, those aren't the only things that our admissions committee looks at. We do review applications holistically. So not only do we take into account the things listed above, but we also read through the statement of purpose, letters of recommendation, and also the answers that you provide to our department-specific application questions. And then second to last slide, grad admissions in bioengineering, 3 tips to make a good application great. So one, complete the application as thoroughly as possible. We do ask a number of department-specific questions on the application. We ask about research and what areas you're interested in, among other questions. Please answer those as thoroughly as possible so we can get a better idea of who you are and what you're interested in. We recommend uploading a resume or CV to accompany your statement of purpose. That way you can kind of list out your experiences in that resume or CV, and then also expand upon that in your statement of purpose. And then also answer the additional educational questions at the end. We also use those as part of admissions holistic review. With that being said, that's our contact information. If you have questions, please reach out.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Appreciate the information. If there are questions for Vanessa, please feel free to put them in the chat, in the Q&A, I'm sorry. And Vanessa, if you can help me monitoring if there are any specific questions to bioengineering while the next presentation is going on, maybe you can answer it there. For more general questions, please save them until the end. All right, next up, I'd like to introduce Tara Terrell from Computer Science and Engineering. Tara, hi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tara Terrell. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am here from the Computer Science and Engineering program, going to talk to you about our admissions process. I will say that I do a lot of things in the department, but primarily as it comes to admissions, I work in the PhD program. So a lot of this is going to be geared towards that program. If you do have questions about the master's program, I can provide information at the end about who to contact regarding that. So first and foremost, here's a little bit about what our programs look like. We only have two options, either a master's degree or a PhD, doctoral degree. You can see the differences in units here. For the master's degree, there is a thesis or a comp exam option, just depending on which you feel you're more interested in as you decide what it is that you are looking for from graduate school. It takes about 4 to 5 quarters. Typically, our master's students are quickly in and out, getting their coursework done, and then moving on into industry or into whatever other field they decide that they might want to work in. On the flip side, our doctoral students typically take less units, but they are here for a lot longer time period because they are working on that research very intimately with their faculty advisor. They're making sure that they get through their phased completion process. So we have the research exam, they have a thesis proposal, and then they have their final dissertation. So depending on how quickly their advisor can help them reach those milestones is really how quickly they'll be able to get through the program. So I think one thing that's unique about our program is that we are maybe considered this really large department, but in my view, we are actually very small sub-departments that all kind of work together in this interdisciplinary way to make up the computer science engineering department. So you'll see here, if you go to submit an application for our program, you will get the option to select your top 2 research areas from this list. And the way that our admissions process works is that you apply directly into an area or into working with a faculty member rather than applying to the department at large. So one thing that I always encourage applicants to keep in mind is that you're really looking for this connection with whoever your potential advisor might be or whatever research area you're the most interested in working in. It's really beneficial to know a little bit about each of these areas and what kinds of research each of the faculty members are doing in that area at a specific year, at a specific time. So I always recommend applicants when they contact me to go to this website down here. You'll see it says at the bottom, CSE faculty research, and just click through all of the different web pages that our faculty have created to see what's going on in our department and to see if it's something that might interest you. Another thing I kind of touched on earlier is why are these research areas and faculty advisors so important when selecting a PhD or applying for a PhD? And that's because each research area reviews the applications and the students that are interested in working in that specific area. So if you're interested in working in systems and networking, someone in artificial intelligence is probably not going to review your application because they might not know the nuances that someone in systems and networking might be able to point out and say, oh no, this person is a really qualified, very strong applicant, whereas someone in AI ML might be looking for something completely different. So it is really important when selecting your application that you are sure where you want that application to go, who you want to see it, what types of research you think you might want to be involved in, because those are really going to be the people who are evaluating whether or not you'd be a good fit for the department. Another thing I would encourage students to keep in mind is that you really want to try to find that connection with a faculty advisor. So someone who's working on something that you're passionate about, someone whose research you've maybe always looked up to in your studies as an undergraduate student, things like that are going to be really things that you want to mention in your statement of purpose and in those additional questions at the end about why you think this would be a good fit. There are also sometimes when you maybe don't know what type of advisor, what type of area you want to get involved in, and that's totally fine. We just, again, ask that you kind of elaborate on that in your statement of purpose so that the people who are reviewing your application can get a better idea of what you want and what they might be able to do with you. Okay, so as Vanessa stated, our application processes are all holistic. I believe you will hear everybody here say that. So that means that no one particular part of the application is going to hold more weight than another, but rather the entire application is considered, we look at you as an entire person and we say, yes, they did well in these classes, but maybe they, didn't do well in this way. But that doesn't mean that because you are not perfection, stellar across the board, that you wouldn't get admitted. So we really want to look at the overall picture of who you are and what type of student you could be in our department when we're reviewing these. Students must choose whether to apply for a master's or a doctoral program. A 3.0 GPA or equivalent is required. We require TOEFL or IELTS scores to be submitted for all international students unless they can waive that requirement. And I think Mary will talk a little bit about that if she hasn't already. I apologize, it's very loud outside my house today. And then for the 2023 cycle, the GRE is actually not going to be required for PhD admissions. It will be required for master's admissions, but we're deciding whether to waive that requirement overall as a whole for PhD. And we're still collecting data and still working on it. And then as always, if you ever have any questions, this is my email address, goes directly to me, the CSE PhD info. So if you ever have any questions that wasn't, addressed here, or there's maybe something more specific about your application that you want to discuss, feel free to send me an email. Okay, the next slide is going to be a little bit about what we look for. So like I said, we review applications holistically. So don't think that, one of these things is more beneficial than the other, but these are the kinds of things that we see being trends over time that the faculty, when students have these things, they tend to get admitted. So your research experience is probably going to be the most important thing about what you have to offer, especially to a PhD program, because for those 5 or 6 years, all you're really going to be doing is research. And so the faculty want to know that you've done this before, you know what you're getting yourself into, you have an idea of what you want to work in, and you are ready to kind of hit the ground running. So what that might look like is working in a lab, collaborating with people, running a team, authoring papers, submitting them to conferences, attending those conferences, presenting that research, things like that. So if you have any of these experiences, I would encourage you to outline them in your statement of purpose and in that additional question section about research at the end. Faculty are also really looking at the strength of an applicant's letters of recommendation. So when you are deciding which faculty members at your current institution to put those forth, be sure that you are taking this into consideration, making sure that the people that you select will have the most good things to say about you. We also look at a student's academic strengths. So that might be their GPA. If they do choose to submit GRE scores, we might look at where they might fall in the percentiles, but again, those are not required. Another big thing that they look for is verbal and communication skills. So how do you and your writing come across when you're writing your statement of purpose, or when maybe they read some of the papers that you might have submitted to conferences. They want to make sure that people who are writing papers here are going to be able to do so in a very clear and understandable way. So keeping that in mind. And then the last two, the overlap of research interests with professors. So obviously, if you want to work on like blockchain, and we don't really have a lot of people working in blockchain, that's probably not going to help you get admitted. So making sure that you are talking about the interests that you have that overlap with what the people in our department are actually working on. And then the last thing, which is kind of just I think a downside of admissions process, is that we can't admit every single student who is a really great fit for our department. A lot of the times it's because there isn't enough money on a professor's side to fund an additional student, or they don't have enough room in their lab to be able to fit another student. And so there are always lots of applicants who would be great fits in our department, but just who for that specific year, it didn't work out. So I always say this to encourage people, to let them know that it might not be anything wrong with you as an applicant or you as a student. It just might be that the timing didn't work out, or that the money wasn't there for the faculty member to be able to take on someone new. So try not to take it personally if it doesn't work out the way that you were hoping. And then here I just have the overview of some of these helpful links, things that I've talked about. I'm not going to click on them. I was planning on it, but I'm running out of time. So if you ever do want more information about, like I said, the difference between the PhD and the master's program, this is where you would go. This is probably the most helpful link, this one and the next one, about if you are planning on applying. This will give you the very discrete, like these are the specific things that you need to make sure that you have prepared before you log into the Connect and submit the actual application. And then this is just some frequently asked questions that we get all the time. I would always recommend reading through these before sending any emails, because a lot of the information is already on the website, and it's just waiting for you to find it. So that is all I have for you. Thank you so much for the time and for your interest in the programs. And I will also be monitoring the Q&A for any questions that relate to me before we open up for questions. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Tiara, for that information. Next up, we have Ryan Baudet, Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, Tiara and Vanessa. I'm definitely going to be echoing some of the sentiments made in the previous presentations, but hopefully put a little bit of MAE, Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering spin on these things. Yeah, let me just bear with me 1 second while I make sure. Okay, cool. And yeah, so like I said, I'm going to be kind of reporting for Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. If you hear me say MAE, we love our acronyms in our department, so that's what I'm referring to. And then real quick too, I learned this yesterday, so you'll see that I definitely am taking advantage of it. I put a QR code in the bottom right corner that has my personal contact information. So if you have any questions about financial support or the admissions process in MAE, feel free to contact me directly there. And there will be a couple other QR codes in the other slides too for hopeful access to some of the information I'll be referencing. So about the program, much like the other programs discussed thus far, the MAE program has both an MS Master of Science and a PhD program. The MS program is built around like a 1-year program. So typically students are embarking on 3 quarters and completing in 1 year. That being said, we do have a lot of students that are part-time or just kind of want to take a little bit more time and ensure their employment is set before leaving the program. So that 3 quarters, 1 year is not a hard stop, but is sort of what the plan or what the degree is built for. Within the MS program, there are 2 sort of separate plans. The first one is doing coursework and supervised research that culminates in a thesis defense. And then the plan 2 is pure coursework and then a comprehensive exam at the end. So the big difference there being the access or ability to research. And the one caveat is that if you are doing the in a thesis defense, it is your responsibility to find a research advisor. A research advisor would be a faculty member that would be supporting your research. In terms of funding, just because that's something that I work very closely with, I thought I'd throw some details in there. The MS program students are typically self-funded given the sort of shorter timeframe of the program. That being said, our students are eligible to apply and work as GSRs, which are graduate student researchers, or any of the ASE assignments. Those are all either TA, teaching assistantships, tutors, or readers. And then the one caveat there is that priority of these assignments is given to PhD candidates. Speaking of PhD candidates, the other side of the program at MAE is the PhD program. This is a much longer program, as you'll see. It's typically 4 to 6 years, with an average being 5 years right in the middle, and that's about 8 quarters. So that's built around 1 to 2 years of coursework. Most students, depending on kind of where they're coming in, are gonna kind of take classes their first year and into their second year. After that, though, it really is diving deep into very specific research that will come together at the end in a dissertation defense. That means you're going to be working in a lab, working closely with your faculty advisor and other lab mates towards a very specific research project that you're hopefully quite passionate about. And then as far as funding goes, it is guaranteed for our PhD students for 5 years. What the funding is can kind of change, case to case, depending on the faculty advisor and kind of the lab the student's working in. Some students receive a first-year fellowship and others are funded through the graduate student research, GSR, or those ASE assignments, TAs, tutors, and readers. And then sort of less about the kind of program and diving into the studies. MAE has 5 main research areas that all the faculty are kind of distributed within. They are biomaterials and medical devices, dynamics and controls, energy, fluids, and mechanics and materials. Each of these programs vary in size. They're all obviously considered mechanical and aerospace engineering, but those are kind of the umbrella terms of the type of research you'll be doing in MAE. As far as majors go, this isn't a complete list. I'll actually pop up there. Wait, see, I told you about those QR codes. So here's one that will let you access and see all of the majors. I tried to just create a list that sort of highlights the diversity and some of the more prominent majors. So you'll see MS and PhD. There's about 6 majors listed there. I think there's about 9 total. And those are, again, for any MS or PhD candidates. And then there are some majors that are currently for MS students only. This is sort of in sort of a time of transition where we might be able to offer these for PhD students in the future. It's just not something we can do quite yet, but you'll see those designated there at the bottom. And then, like I said, if you do want to sort of save this list or refer back to it in the future, all our majors can be found by scanning that QR code. And then about the process. So a lot of this will be touched upon by our colleague later, and that kind of dives deeper into the academic process. But I did want to sort of highlight some things within that are specific to MAE applicant readers and sort of our sort of holistic approach to it as well. So one thing, as far as academic transcripts, at this point, there's little you can do to change those. So just making sure that you're collecting all of them, sending them all of the information is what you can do. But in terms of sort of actionable steps, how you can put yourself maybe ahead or just make yourself noticeable, it really is that statement of purpose. This is where we're going to get to know you beyond just what the data says. This is a place for you to kind of discuss your personality, come through as an individual. So I just kind of put in some questions that we like to see answered, that the faculty are looking to see addressed. And that are common ways that students can kind of put themselves or make themselves stand out. So just describing who you are, how did you get to this point, why this major, what are your goals? We want to know that you're being intentional about this decision. We want to know why you're choosing MAE, whether it's a deeply rooted passion that you've had, or it's something that you have experience that has led you to. We really want to know about those things. We want to make sure that the students that are entering the program are serious about the program, because it is something that you'll be working on for potentially 4 to 6 years if it's a PhD program or something like that. So really just taking the statement of purpose very seriously and doing what you can to make that something that kind of makes you stick out as an applicant. And the same thing with the recommendation letters. Don't just get 3 recommendation letters. Be intentional, be very intentional about who you're getting them from. As a rule of thumb, academic recommendations tend to be a little bit more relevant and weight a little bit more importantly than some things like professional or maybe like coaches or people that are kind of more on a personal level. That being said, if you have very specific professional experience, worked in a lab that did research that kind of would very much lead well into the PhD program, that's something that we're going to want to know about. Yeah, nothing too different there, but just the emphasis on intentionality. And then one thing that does stick out, this is not required on all applications. It is a requirement on the MA application, which is a curriculum vitae. A CV is what you'll typically see it referred to as. And this really is an academic resume. We do have some resources online if you if you kind of seek some support in creating this. But yeah, this is really, really an ideal place to highlight your prior research if you have any. It's required, but obviously when applying to these types of programs, having some research in the past can be impactful and powerful. And your CV is a really great place to discuss that. And then one other thing previously mentioned, for any international applicants, we are going to need to see those TOEFL and IELTS scores. And one last thing, this was mentioned as across the other departments. Each department may have slightly different policy as we're working on this, but as of now, the GRE scores are not going to be required for MAE applications, but it is something that is recommended, particularly if your scores are in the higher kind of 80, 90 percentile. That is something that will be beneficial to you. And then we included the institution code there, but to reiterate, not a requirement, but is something that if submitted will be looked at. And that's really it. So my newfound love of QR codes is really shown here. So if you wanted to connect with us, that first one's going to give you all of the contact information for all of the student affairs administrators, me being one of those. And then as far as accessing the application, there's a QR code there at the bottom, so you can kind of jump right in and apply. But yeah, that kind of concludes the MAE presentation. Much like my friends presented previously, I'll keep my eye on the Q&A. I know I talk fast, so maybe you need me to repeat something, but I'll keep an eye on there and then hand it off to the next colleague. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. for that. Love QR codes actually too.
I had a big week this week.
All right. Next up is Jackie Tam from Nano Engineering and Chemical Engineering. Jackie, take it away.
All right, let me see if I can share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see that, right? So I welcome everybody, glad you're here. I am the graduate coordinator for Chemical and Nano Engineering. Let's see if I can get this. So just an overview of the program. So we have the graduate studies programs leads to Masters of Science and PhD degrees in both nano engineering and chemical engineering. In nano engineering, we have some focus areas, although the degree is just in nano engineering, but you can focus in biomedical, nanotechnology, molecular and nanomaterials, nanotechnologies for energy and the environment. And in chemical engineering, we have a concentration in nanotechnology. So most of my information is going to mirror what everybody else has said. Our master's degree is designed to be completed in 1 year. The PhD is on average 5 or 6 years. And in order to apply, the GRE for us for this fall's application process is optional. So, you know, if you have a GRE score, you may want to include it. If you don't have it, it's not required. And we require your academic records from all of your post-secondary institutions that you've attended since high school, a statement of purpose, 3 letters of recommendation, and as Ryan had mentioned, better if it's academic recommenders. And the recommendations will be submitted online. So you provide an email and then your recommender gets emailed and then they submit the recommendation, a CV, and also, as some mentioned, for international applicants, we do require either TOEFL or IELTS scores. And then just in general, so to apply for the graduate programs at UCSD requires a 3.0 GPA at minimum. And our typical GPA is 3.6 or higher. And we also are doing holistic reviews. So we look at scores, but we also focus on what you're saying in your statement of purpose, as well as answers to the department questions and also the educational questions. And so you find a lot of the information about our programs on our website. So these are just some of the things, the places, and also we have a department admissions webpage. And then we also have a web page that lists all our faculty, and that's where you can go to find out more information about the faculty and what their research focuses on. And then grad admissions is also a great resource for admissions questions and information. Our application will open on September 7th of this year and close on December 7th of this year. Okay, and this is what I was talking about. So a lot of application questions can be answered from the admissions frequently asked questions page. And also we have our own department frequently asked questions as well page. And I think that's it. I went through really fast. So if you have any questions, please either insert them in the chat or we'll also be talking about it in the Q&A. And you can also send me questions to the email that's listed on this page. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Well, let me go ahead and bring in everyone to the forefront here as we begin the Q&A. Appreciate that we're responding to some of the questions that were already in the chat. Missing anyone? No, I think we're good. Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and answer the Q&A really quickly. I do want to resurface a question that you answered, Tiara. Tiara, thank you so much. And that's about the GRE. Just because so GRE is not sorry, CSE, computer science engineering, is not requiring the GRE for until 2023 at least. And also, Vanessa, you said that you bioengineering is not requiring the GRE. Are the other programs requiring GRE? I'll just give Ryan and Jackie a chance to just mention.
MAE has it waived, so we're not requiring the GRE for fall 2023.
Yeah, and we're also making it optional.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. There's a question in the chat in regards to the recordings. We will be posting the recordings later, at a later time, and students will be notified once the recordings are posted. So just keep an eye for an email, and we'll let you know when they'll be posted. All right, so at this point, please, to our attendees, take advantage of this opportunity to ask questions broadly about grad school at UCSD, specifically about a certain program. Put it in the chat, we'll answer it live, and we'll make sure that you walk away with a lot of information, more than what you came in with. So I'll give you a couple minutes for students to put in the questions while I actually ask a question to the panel, and that is, how can applicants in your department connect with graduate students? So how can applicants and prospective students connect with students in your department, in your program? Anyone can start, we can go around.
So we don't really have a way for applicants really to connect with current students, just for like privacy reasons. We don't want to put their information out. One way that we typically facilitate that interaction is post application. So after the students are maybe admitted, we have a visit day where they're invited to come and meet with current students and faculty members to really get answers to the questions of what it would be like to be a student here. Before that, the recommendations I think I would give people are to go to those research area websites, and each faculty will have their own page, and they typically list their graduate students and, you know, whether you can contact them or not. That might be a good way to just say, hey, I'm a potential applicant. I'm really interested in programming languages, and I wanted to see what it's like to work with Soaring. And sometimes you'll get an answer, sometimes you won't. I mean, I don't really get answers lots of the times when I send emails to students, so it really just depends on how much time they have. But typically they are happy to talk about their experiences and to share. It's just a matter of getting to them. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That was good, Brian.
No, go ahead, Jackie.
I agree with what Tiara said, right? So we don't have a listing of grad students, and the best way to contact them, and you know, the grad students are very open to getting contacts from students who are interested in our programs, and they are listed on the research websites of the faculty. So then you can see like which students, and most of them also will list like what year they're in. So then you can also narrow down your search that way. But I missed one of my slides, and it talked about the research that we do in the department. And, you know, the best way to stand out in your application is to do your research, right? Look at those links, look at the faculty websites, find out what research they're working on and match it to your interests, right? And then, you know, apply and put that in your statement of purpose. And so a lot of this really, you know, if you're really interested, will require a little bit of digging that you need to do to find, you know, talk to students and ask them about how it is working with those faculty, and also looking at their websites and really, you know, looking at who you can contact. But most students, as well as faculty, are open to, you know, people who are interested in our programs contacting them. It may take a little bit of a while, for them to respond to you. And, if you sent them an email and you didn't get a response, send them another email. Everyone's busy, everyone is got inbox overload. So, just send the emails and try and contact them as best you can.
Yeah, Jackie and Tara definitely kind of hit upon most of what I would have said. I think basically, yeah, all our students are really busy, and we want to respect their time as much as we ask them to respect our time. So I'd say the one thing that prospective students can do is sort of contact more on the administrative side. So speaking on behalf of MAE, contacting me or some of my teammates. We do have some committees that have some students that are kind of have explicitly told us they're willing to kind of have these conversations, or ones that are you're likely to see volunteering at our open house once you are potentially accepted. So that is something we can kind of be the bridge there, reach out to us, and then we can at least try to reach out to students and see if they're available and willing to contact. That's definitely something we can do. But same thing as Tiara and Jackie said, if you're emailing us, just kind of understand that there's a lot of things going on and that sometimes those things fall through the cracks. So just be persistent. It's a good thing to learn before you get here, is persistency and following up and all that. It's something you'll do across everything. So yeah, I'd say connecting with us. But yeah, much like the other departments, we don't have a set sort of like program or this one-stop shop type thing, but just communicate with our office, and we can usually help facilitate that.
For bioengineering, our graduate students have a very active student organization called Bioengineering Graduate Society, BEGS, BEGS for short. BEGS is, again, they're very active. They provide a lot of professional development and student life events for our current bioengineering students, and they definitely love talking to prospective students. So if you're interested in the bioengineering program, you're welcome to reach out to them. Their website is begs.ucsd.edu, and their email address to reach out to them is begs@ucsd.edu. And they're happy to answer questions about graduate student life at UCSD, as well as graduate student life within bioengineering. And their website is really well developed, so I definitely recommend reading through that to see contact information of their current leadership board, as well as all of the different resources, events, and activities that they put on.
Thank you. All right, I again want to invite you to send your questions through the Q&A. Come on, there's I have all the questions that I can ask the panel, but this is your time. So to our students that are here, please. Okay, so I'd like to just go over really quickly a question that you helped us answer, Vanessa. And that is, can people apply to multiple programs in the same application cycle? And I like to just, reiterate what you said, Vanessa, in part, and then also just say something in addition. So students can apply to more than one program as long as they're different departments. Essentially, that's the answer. I like to encourage students to just reflect on the reasons why you're applying to multiple programs. Hopefully the reasons that you're applying to multiple programs there's a good reason behind it. It makes sense, and that you are not just applying to many programs to cast a wide net of options. So you always want to put in as much effort and as much emphasis on one application or one program. So just make sure that you think about that a little bit and apply either to one or to a couple programs. Someone else asked about MAE. Ryan, if you can help us answer that question. Anybody else has any questions that are general?
One thing I want to say about the application multiple
Terrell.
applications is that I think starting last year or the year before, you will have to pay additional application fees as well. So if you do choose that you want to, if you want to apply to multiple departments, you would have to pay both of those application fees. So just something to keep in mind as well.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Okay. Well, I have another question. I can ask you to our panelists. So, what do you think about research experience? What do you think is how important is it that students have research experience? Sometimes we get students thinking that their research experience is not directly related to what they want to do in the future, or and feel like that might be a detriment to their application in some way or another. How is it in your department? What can you tell prospective students when they ask you, does my research have to be in the same in line with what I want to do in the future? How much research experience is enough? What can you tell us about that when you talk to prospective students?
Yeah, I can go ahead and answer for bioengineering. So specifically for our degree programs that require research, so our Master's of Science Plan 1 thesis degree, as well as our PhD programs, we like to see students who have any sort of experience really in research, especially for the PhD. The PhD is oftentimes anywhere between 4 to 6 years of research. And so we want to make sure that a student who's applying to the PhD program has some sort of research experience. So that way they know that they like research and then are willing to then commit the next 4 to 6 years of their life towards research. So base, we like to see some sort of research. If the research is not within bioengineering or is not within a specific subset of bioengineering that you're interested in, that's not a deal breaker. We understand that between entering your undergrad to graduating from undergrad, you're spending several years learning about yourself and learning about all of the research and opportunities that are out there in the world. So while it doesn't have to be directly related, research skills are oftentimes similar across disciplines. So setting up experiments, booking times in certain lab rooms, time management, and general time expectations for research are fairly similar across disciplines. So you're getting some of that experience without it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in this same, like, I want to do tissue engineering, but my research is only in biomechanics. There's could be overlap there, or there's not overlap, but it's still some sort of experience. So that's what we like to see for bioengineering. And then definitely highlight that on a resume CV, highlight that in your statement of purpose. And then also on our application, we do ask department specific questions, including what research areas are you interested in, and you can list them out. Which faculty are you interested in? You select from a list. And then why are you interested in their research? Having a little bit of explanation of, I did similar research that they're doing now, and so I would be interested in continuing that, or I've done something else for research, but I'm more interested in the research that they're completing. Those kinds of things, include all of that in the application.
I would say it's pretty similar for CSE. We do, I wouldn't say require, but it's really rare that someone's admitted into the PhD program without any research experience. It doesn't necessarily need to be like, okay, I started working on something in undergrad and I know this is what I want to do forever. This is the only research I want to work on, because we realize that even after coming here, a lot of our students engage in a lot of interdisciplinary research where you will work with someone from bioengineering or from MAE or ECE and really get those nuanced, like looking at how research can evolve over time. But just like what Vanessa said, like there are some transferable skills regardless of what kind of lab you're working in, like time management, team management. You know, how do you work within a team? How do you stand out? If so, how are there ways that you have contributed to make this research team, you know, go above and beyond? Or what ways were you integral in the creation of either this idea or this procedure, or, you know, whatever it is? Really, and this is sometimes very hard for people to do, but really, you know, building yourself up and patting yourself on the back for all of the maybe what seemingly might be thought of as small skills, but these are things that I think a lot of people who haven't done research don't have. And so explicitly saying I have the ability to lead a team and do so effectively, and I can write a paper where my point gets across very clearly, might sound maybe dumb to have to articulate, but it's something that I think the faculty members will be really appreciative of, because they won't have to, you know, think, okay, is this person going to be able to meet our standards in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, I think for MAE, there's not anything drastically different there. I do think the one sort of distinction, especially with our programs, is that if you are looking at the MS track and you are worried about kind of maybe your lack of research, I would say the comprehensive exam track is that the right place for someone who maybe wants to explore more, doesn't have research experience yet, but definitely wants to dive into mechanical or aerospace engineering or any of our sort of underlying topics. That's a place where not having research won't impact as much, especially compared to kind of as what Tiara was saying, with on the PhD level, having some sort of research is going to be important. And what that research is going to be looked at. And again, it is the faculty members that are looking at these things. So they're going to be looking out for the level of research, the type of research, and things of that sort. But you're able to kind of, maybe if you have researched something differently, something completely different, and want to kind of embark on this passion, it's totally relevant to talk about the research you did in a different field and the skills you learned doing that research, and then kind of telling us about your passions with mechanical engineering and how you want to kind of culminate those things together. So don't feel like, yeah, you need something with like the exact specificity that's only relevant if you've actually done the specific work you will be doing. There's always ways that there's always skills and relevant information you can derive from those experiences and make them relevant to what you're applying. So I think that's just important.
And I kind of concur with what everyone else is saying for nano and chemical engineering. Especially if you're coming in for a PhD, it's advantageous to have some research experience, right? But, you know, it may not have to be in the specific area that you're saying that you're interested in. You know, a lot of research lab skills are transferable. And so in the master's program, we, you know, you're not declaring if you're going to be thesis or comprehensive exam plan. So we're not really looking for you to have specific research experience when you're applying for those programs. So I really think, you know, the as much as you can, right, if you have any experience that's relevant, right, you should include that in your answers to the questions and your statement of purpose, and then don't feel like you won't be able to get in just because you don't have research experience. We have some, you know, some PhD students who start and they don't have research experience, and we have some master's students who start and they don't have any research experience, but they do want to follow a thesis plan, or some go on the comprehensive exam plan, but they still want research plan, and so they talk to different faculty and try and get research experience while they're doing their master's, because it will help them in their job search. So you know, it all depends, but you know, just because you don't have research doesn't mean that you won't be able to get in.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that question. So there's a couple questions in the chat and we have about 4 minutes. So I'll give a question to one of you, and then you can try to answer it as succinctly as possible. So the first one is, what types of quality situations stand out in the statement of purpose that makes students stand out? Maybe if I can have Vanessa and Jackie to give us your thoughts on that question.
Sure. So what types of qualities, situations, except stand out in a statement of purpose? So for us, what we like to see is a statement of purpose that provides a little bit of background of who you are. It's going to be one of your opportunities within the application to provide a more human side to your application. Because a lot of time the application, we're looking at numbers, we're looking at transcripts, we're looking at, a couple sentence answers to certain questions or just responses to checkboxes. So the statement of purpose is an opportunity for you to explain the more human side of you compared to what's already in the application. Providing a little bit of background, maybe about what led you to this program, why you've selected our program, maybe things that interest you about our program. And then our faculty also like to see what you plan to do in the future. Now, it doesn't have to be, an exact career trajectory for the next 10 years, but something about what you hope to gain from the degree that will allow you to make some sort of impact when you graduate. So having kind of that, here are my beginnings, here's kind of where I'm at now, this is where I see myself in the future, is a good way to structure your statement of purpose. That way we kind of get a fuller picture of you as the person behind the application.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that Vanessa said. You should be telling your story, right? Why are you interested in what you're applying for? How did you get interested? And then what do you want to do with it, right? But also your backstory, like, where are you coming from? Why did you get interested? Some students or applicants mention, oh, I happened to be at a talk and this person talked and it just ignited my interest in this whole field. Or they'll say some students, who have done research will cite publications, right, that they've been published in. So it's really the whole picture, like, who are you, right, and why are we interested in letting you into the program?
Awesome. And then, Ryan, I was actually going to ask you if you could answer that question. What are the available opportunities for international students while pursuing their degrees other than research? Maybe you can answer from MAE perspective, and then I'll let Tiara answer the last question after that.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of international students and embarking on research or other work, there's nothing that an international student can't do that a domestic student can't do. There just are some additional steps. So international students, apart from doing research, can also be teaching assistants, readers, and tutors. The big caveat there is just that we do require those TEFL, and I always forget the acronyms, IETL, basically the language test scores. And depending on how you do on those, you can automatically qualify, you're all good, and you can embark on those, or you will need to kind of retake an exam. And then we also actually this policy is sort of in flux right now, and dependent on where you attended, if you attended your undergraduate in the domestic US and completed that program here, or if your international program was taught fully in English, those are ways that you can qualify. So again, I'm getting in the weeds a little bit, but definitely follow up with us for the specifics. But to, in a more general sense, answer your question, there's nothing you won't be able to do as an international student. Just know that there may be a couple additional steps you have to take in regards to English language proficiency and visa restrictions while you're here on campus, but we have separate offices that can help you sort of navigate those. But yeah, great question. I'm going to leave it there.
And I would just add, right, so the International Students and Programs Office also offers a lot of programs for international students specifically. So there's also those programs as well.
Yes.
And Tiara, can you help us with this question? Do applications go through both the admissions officers and specific departments? Can you explain a little bit about how that process works?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit confused, and so maybe this person can offer more clarification if this is not what they're looking for. But in our department, it's a little different because, like I said, our admissions is really run by the individual faculty members. So we have us, like the admissions coordinators, who are really the facilitators and middlemen, I like to think, or middle people rather, I shouldn't gender that. We are really the mediators between the students with all of their questions and the faculty with all of their answers, and finding a way to get everyone the information that they need. Then in our department, there is the admissions committee, but then there's also the individual research areas, faculty members, all that, who are the ones who are actually reading the specific applications. So the admissions committee does a few things. We nominate people for fellowships. We find people who would be qualified to receive additional, funds for furthering our visions of diversity. And all that kind of stuff. And we also try to find people who might be lost, who might, get lost in the shuffle. We have literally thousands of applications every year that we go through. And so just a matter of realizing that there are some people who might fall through the cracks and who might be really great fits in our department or with this faculty member, but either the faculty member didn't have time to review it, or they just got sidetracked, or they maybe missed some of the really stellar points of this person's application. The admissions committee will go back and say, hey, you might have missed these people, or we'll also recommend people for rotations, which are basically maybe those students who didn't have like a clear one area that they wanted to go into, but had a really broad interest, were really, really great candidates regardless, and we wanted to see if we could find something that might work with them. The admissions committee might suggest that they work with 3 faculty members in their first year instead of just that one, to really get that broad experience and to see if any one of those 3 areas in computer science would be interesting to them. So there's a lot of different things that the committee does, but like I said, all the admissions actually, like who is getting in, how are we funding this person, those all come from the individual faculty members. So they are going to be the most helpful to figure out what they are looking for out of a potential student in their lab.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to add to that answer, there is a central admissions office, central graduate admissions office on campus that will screen the applications. There's a series of evaluators that will screen the applications for completeness. So they'll make sure that you have all of the materials needed in order for us, for that office, for the admissions office, the central graduate admissions office, to send those applications to the department. And then Tiara's department, Jackie, Vanessa, Ryan, and all the other departments will then take those applications through their own processes and through their own reviewers, however their structure is. And that's exactly what Tiara is describing as the process internally for each department. Okay, so thank you so much to our panelists for your information, insight, advice, tips that you provided today. Thank you to our attendees for checking out this last session of our virtual grad prep series for OER Squared. Really excited to have the opportunity to offer this to many people and to our attendees. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.